Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts and going over some data. And so I wanted to follow up on Luminar Technologies, ticker symbol LAZR, after they had a massive day today, going up over 27% and closing at a price of $6.42. I wasn't planning on doing a video on this, but I did see some data from Unusual Whales that stood out to me as being potentially pretty bullish for the week. So I wanted to go over that. I did go over the chart last night during Ticker Request Live, so you can check that out if you'd like. But yeah, I wanted to go over this because of that data, but also a little bit reluctant too, because I feel like this move is, kind of, a cringe move, because there was the YouTube video put out over the weekend comparing basically Luminar Technologies, the LiDAR, with Tesla, which was pitched as being full self-driving, but really it was an autopilot. But there have been a lot of clips suggesting that autopilot wasn't activated when the car crashed. So, yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's kind of disingenuous, and I don't really like it. I think it's better when companies have healthy competition. They compete against each other, lifting each other up, rather than kind of, shadily pushing each other down. And so that's what I feel like happened here. Tesla's also had a tough time recently because of political stuff, which you may agree or disagree with, whatever it is. But, that stock's been beaten down recently. I think Tesla is the innovator, the leader in this sector. And while, they are not implementing LiDAR. It might be a complementary technology, but I don't think that if you, throw somebody under the bus, they're going to be that receptive of you, later down the road. So I just don't think it's a good strategy. But anyways, let's dive into the chart before we get into the data. And so here we can see this big green candle here, a nice gap up from Friday the 14th's close at a price of $5.05. I believe in the after hours from Friday, maybe, the overnight from last night, we were looking at prices below $5 a share. I believe $4.91. I saw that. But once the market opened, gapped up, opening at a price of $5.38, hitting a low of $5.34 on the day. And then again, like I said, closing at $6.42 with a high of $6.50. We did get up to not only the 21-day moving average marked by this pink line, but also getting above the 50-day moving average, that yellow line there, which is at $5.96, that 21-day moving average right around $5.50. And so, what I did go over, actually, before I throw up the drawings, I should point this out just in case I forget. Nice boost in volume here on the day. Volume's been pretty flat, pretty non-eventful, really like the past month plus. But then we went from on Friday a volume of 700,000 to today having nearly 5 million shares traded. So quite a big difference there, quite a big move. If I do put up the drawings that I put up last night during Ticker Request Live, we can see that there is this downtrend that I drew before we had this big candle for the 17th, a green candle for St. Patty's Day, so looking pretty nice there. And then I did adjust a prior trend line, which I think had going along here, that we were trading below it. I adjusted that, so we do have the pivot low from December 24th and the low from March 4th. And so that does look like this is somewhat of a falling wedge, although it's not such a steep slope for the downtrending level of support there. We do have this horizontal line here at 493, which was the low from December 24th. And so generally, I think this looks really good, although what I was talking about in Ticker Request last night is this little doodle that I have here that I thought that we could potentially be seeing a breakout this week, followed by a retest of that breakout level, that downtrend, which could correspond with earnings that will be happening, I believe, in the after hours on March 20th. And so maybe the stock price could be pulling back to around $5 a share before bouncing and continuing higher, following through with this breakout. But, this is just the one candle, the one close above that downtrend. It could be retraced. It could be a fake out. So I think it's good to be cautious of that. Looking down here at the MACD, we do have it being red here for quite some time, about, for the course of March, going back to, February 25th was the last time the MACD was green. It did flip green today. And then we also can see the RSI here over here on, February 18th, we had an RSI of 60.58, whereas today we are at 59.95 for March 17th. So it's effectively flat there. You can see the cursor going across there, but we do have a lower high in the stock price. If we do go a little bit higher with that RSI and the stock price remains below $7.43, which was the high from February 18th, we would then be putting in higher highs in the RSI with a lower high in the stock price, and that would then be, I believe, hidden bearish divergence. Bearish divergence would be with higher highs in the stock price, lower highs in the RSI. So I don't think that we're going to see straight on bearish divergence. We might be seeing some hidden bearish divergence, and also to kind of further support that, taking a step back even further, when we hit the high of $10.40 on January 7th, the RSI back then was 60.80. So we've got 60.80 over here, 60.58, and then from the 17th, 59.95. So while the stock price has been putting in lower lows, just like the RSI, although they're effectively flat, and that is some weak bearish divergence or weak hidden bearish divergence, because the lower highs here and this being flat here. So there's a little bit of divergence there. But I'd say that's especially weak because typically you would see bearish divergence when you're putting in higher highs, but the RSI doesn't back those moves. It's lower highs, so that suggests weakness and the possibility of a turnaround. And so what I could see with the stock price is that if this does continue to go higher, maybe it stops around 737 or so, right around the highs here, which were, that was $7.43, could maybe bump into some resistance there. But if the stock price does break higher than that and the RSI does break above 61 effectively, but it doesn't, the stock price does not get up to 1040, that would then have some divergence on the top side with higher highs than in the RSI, lower highs in the stock price, and that would then very clearly be hidden bearish divergence, suggesting that a top could be in. And so looking at the data from Unusual Whales, I'll take you guys over there in just a second, but that effectively does suggest a little bit of a pivot for this week, suggesting that, whoever made this trade is not necessarily as bullish as one might think. So here, looking at the net call and put premium, the net contract premium here for Luminar, we can see that the net call premium in green here went up over the course of the day, reaching a total net call premium increase of $680,000. And so we could see that there. And the things that stand out to me as being unusual is that this was not a gradual increase that we see these spikes here. And so the one that actually stands out to me is actually not this one that we saw at the beginning part of the day, which took us from a net call premium of around $75,000 up to around $375,000. So that's an increase of about $300,000 there. The one that stands out to me is this one over here, going from about $400,000 up to $600,000, so an increase of about $200,000. And so the reason why that stands out to me is because if we look at the specific contracts traded for the day, this does seem like there is kind of an execution related to this week. And I should note too, again, with earnings coming up on the 20th in the after hours, based on the options data that we're seeing here from Unusual Whales, there is an expected move of 16.73% either to the upside or downside, which would represent an increase or decrease of $1.11. So do keep that in mind. With earnings coming up on Thursday, it's going to be a volatile week. And then one thing I do just want to point out with the data over here, you can't see it because it's right behind me, but we do see this net call premium going up. If I do slide this down a little bit, we can see that the bearable slider here does look like 64% of the trading of Luminar contracts today, 64% is in favor of the bulls, and that's really not too surprising, seeing the increase in net call premium there, with net put premium being more or less flat, with that going up by only 14,000 over the course of the day, with net call premium by contrast going up by $680,000. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at the Luminar flow data for today. And so what I have here, I have done the filter already. As you can see up here, I have it filtered to be only Luminar. And then I also have it filtered to be only for March 17th for St. Patrick's Day. And then it's behind Ed right now, but if I scroll up just a little bit, you can see just above his head here, I do have the minimum premium marked at $30,000. And so that just kind of filters out some of these contracts here. And so what we can see is, just looking at this data over here, we do see this initial spike, and that was right around, let's see, 10:22 in the morning. And so if we look over here, we do see this one contract should be around, $300,000 as that was the increase, but here we just see $39,000. So I find that to be pretty interesting because I would expect to see, a pretty big spike here going from, like I said, 74,000 up to around 380,000. But we don't really see that here, so it was probably just a number of orders. This one does look like it was a call that expires a couple years from now, so in January of 2027, and that's a $3 strike. It does look like this was sold, I believe, on the bid side, or let's see if it was on the bid side, but this was going up here. Yeah, it's kind of tough to say because there are some wiggles around here. It's kind of tough to say. I'm not really going to interpret that one because, I'm probably going to get it wrong in all honesty, but this does suggest that it is on the bearish side. And so the one that actually stands out to me, like I said, as being of more interest is this spike over here, which was about $200,000. And so what we can see here at that time here, it says about 255 for both of these contracts or both of those trades. And the spike over here looks like it happened. So the time is listed right over here where the cursor is. And so that was right around 254 when we started to see that go up. And so that would be these trades, which represent $140,000 here and then about $340,000 here. And, while that total is, if you add those two numbers up, that would be representing, $480,000. That's more than the jump that we saw right here. That was only $200,000. But interestingly, let's see, if we take 340 and we subtract 140 from that, we would then get an increase of $200,000. And that's exactly what we saw in the chart. And so let's just see if the data here does represent that. And before I actually dive into the contracts here, I did just want to point out this little alert here. It says that this trade was part of a flow alert. Click for full context. And so let's click on that for the context. And this looks like, it's those two contracts that I was pointing out over there. One is the $8 call expiring this coming Friday on the 21st. The other one is the $7 call expiring this Friday on the 21st. 3 days to expiration, which, it's like we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So 3 days to expiration. It's a little bit more than that, but I'm not necessarily that familiar with the short-term contracts. But what we can see with this is just like it's reflected over here, bullish, bearish, we can see that the $8 call, that same not the same contract, but the same expiration, the $8 strike, that is 100% on the bid side, suggesting selling, whereas the other one is 100% on the ask side, and that is suggesting buying. And that both of these represent 10,000 contracts traded. So it looks like this person swapped out 10,000 of the $8 calls expiring this Friday, and they swapped them out for the $7 call. So that does make me think that they're still bullish, but that they don't necessarily think it's going to be as good of a performer as, was initially or originally expected. And so what we can see here in the data is that for this contract, we see the size was 10,000 contracts for that order. And so if we click on that contract, that expiration date, we can see we got this nice little alert here that says volume has exceeded open interest. So open interest for the contract prior to the 17th, prior to the start of the 17th. Let's see, that's going to be behind Ed, so I'm going to get him out of the way there. So before the start of trading on the 17th, open interest was over 10,000 contracts open. It looks like 10,195. And so this candle over here that candle volume was indeed larger than the open interest. I was thinking it would have included some trading from before, and then that led to it being greater than 10,000. But it looks like there were some other orders at the same time. And so the volume then exceeded open interest. But interestingly, it looks like, let's see, maybe if I switch this, it is on the 1 day, maybe I want to switch this over to the 1 minute, maybe we can partition that. And so for this candle, I've really got to, let's see, get that just right. Candle volume for that 1 minute, very precise, candle volume 10,001 contracts. So I'm very curious that that volume for that candle, for that one order, is less than the open interest here, but it is the majority of the open interest, and it does seem like that was selling. So I'm very curious if we're going to see open interest tomorrow going from 10,000 here, 10,195, going to around 195, 200, something like that, seeing a dump of 10,000 contracts. And I suspect that is what we will be seeing. So that's, a little bit bearish. But if we do look over at this other contract, we see that it's purple there, and that's because the order exceeds the open interest, I believe, and that is going to suggest that this was, buying, because if we do click on that expiration for that contract, the open interest prior to start of trading on Monday was 526 contracts open. We saw a volume today of 10,804 contracts traded, which with the majority of those being on the buy side. And for this 1 minute candle here, that was, let's see if I can get that just right, candle volume at $10,340,000 candle premium there. And so that suggests that this person, swapped the $8 call for this Friday into that $7 call. So they're still bullish, but they're a little bit less bullish, taking a little bit of a step back, going from 8 to 7. So I think that's not necessarily the best thing, but it does still suggest that the stock price could be going higher. But with price just below 7, here trading, closing at 642, and in the after hours getting up to $6.61. Let's see what the max pain is for the week for Luminar, which I suspect will be changing come start of the day tomorrow. But for Friday, March 21st, we can see that the max pain for Luminar is $6. And so that suggests that there is going to probably be some downward pressure trying to get the price below 6 or right around 6, at least getting it below 650, which is going to be the next strike up that is currently out of the money, as you can see there for these calls. 650 is the next one there. But with earnings coming up, max pain being $6, which is lower than current price, which does coincide with the 50-day moving average, and which would kind of match my analysis of seeing a breakout, but then a retest before and or after earnings. We might be seeing that retest. So I think it's good to be cautious with this one, at least on this week's time frame. Do I think this could be going up higher to maybe get up to the 200-day moving average up here around 13? Yeah, I definitely think that's possible, but I do think that we could be seeing a retest of around $5 before then. And I have to note that all of this, I do think is kind of built upon or based upon kind of a shady move with a YouTuber, really kind of falsely comparing Luminar with Tesla that does not have full self-driving activated and may not have even had autopilot activated for the comparison. So it was really just, an unfair comparison in my view. And, just kind of being a little bit shady. So, I don't really like it. I personally am bullish on Tesla. And what just happened with that video makes me actually kind of bearish, on Luminar if they're going to be dunking on Tesla unfairly. It just doesn't seem like the right way to do business. So I don't really like that. And so I feel like if not getting a retest of 5, I think that this could be rolling over at some point. So, yeah, I think it's good to be trading cautiously with this 200-day moving average up there at 13. I think that's pretty appealing. But, generally, I have a lot of conviction in Tesla long term. I've kind of lost some conviction in Luminar over the weekend because of this. But, as always, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great day trading tomorrow, Tuesday. And make sure you tune in to pre-market prep before the market opens. Take care, you guys.